prosperity gospel went wrong?
It talked about getting things instead of ideas to advance people. But it has fallen into ill repute now.
Could you give us some idea of what your reflections were on the so-called religious right, during the Reagan era?
That too was a heresy proposed by Jerry Falwell and others, Pat Robertson. That was the worst heresy of the Protestant church.
What exactly made it heretical? If you could explain that to me. I'm not a theologian, so as a layperson, and maybe there's some lay people, what exactly made it heretical in your mind?
Well, heresy is outside of the norm of what the Bible teaches, and the African American people have always been the people of the book and depended on the authority of the Bible. And the prosperity gospel was, in my view, a heresy, a twisting of the scriptures.
Do you see, is your view of the Bible that justice is meant to be more communitarian as opposed to individualistic?
It twisted the life of Jesus and what he meant. And it moved away from justice and love. It tried to make love without justice is sentimental, and justice without love is the other side of the coin.
I wanted to ask you a question that has been probably addressed to you many times. As you look at America today, which aspects of Dr. King's dream have been fulfilled and which have not been?
Well, the election of Barack Obama to the presidency of the United States is the front edge of Dr. King's dream. And as long as we keep the pressure on to have a post-racial society, and that includes reparations, then the dream will be fulfilled.
It just dawned on me. It's not one of the questions, but I'm curious. What was your take during Obama's election on the Obama-Jeremiah Wright controversy?
No, not God bless America, God damn America, that's in the Bible.
Well, that was a media frenzy created by including Jeremiah's quote, God damn America, instead of God bless America. And I felt he was being prophetic because we have had more domestic terrorism than any nation in the world. Bush never considered sending his troops to the south to do something about a city like Birmingham, but we never gave one thought to dropping the atomic bomb on Europe, but because Japanese were considered a minority, we dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's racism and terrorism. And the worst kind of terrorism was slavery. And we we fought a war because we wanted to end slavery.
Josephine Baker, I'm just going to follow up on this issue of terrorism. Josephine Baker once made the statement that when she thought of America, she had nightmares. And of course, one of the reasons she had those nightmares was her experience with race riots and violence against African American people. Some have argued that in this discussion of terrorism as a global phenomenon, that we have also forgotten the kind of terrorism in those areas that affected Baker and others in the United States, that African Americans had their own experience with terrorism. Would you see that as historically grounded?
Absolutely. And we cooperated with the Europeans who, in their genocide of the Native Americans as we pushed toward the Pacific Ocean.
One other question. What was it that moved Dr. King to focus more and more on the economic front? Because before he was assassinated, he was championing the rights of sanitation workers in Memphis. And he was about to lead a poor people's campaign in Washington. What happened to make him emphasize more of that economic reality?
Well, he had said in the early 60s that a fair distribution of wealth would help erase the rigors of racism. And there's something immoral about 20% of the people controlling 80% of the wealth. And that's what's true in America.
What is your wish for the next generation of civil rights leaders?
Well, we will make reparations the center of our struggle, because without restitution, there can be no there can be no reconciliation.
And that also ties in with the economic agenda as well. Okay. Do you feel that the leaders who have come after you are doing their part in keeping the fight for justice, social justice alive?
Well, we're going to sleep, unfortunately, in this generation. And our young people are not informed about how far we have come. And until people have a sense of history, they can't make any progress.
And on that sense of history, were you able to attend any of the Martin Luther King memorial events?
The what?
The Martin Luther King memorial events.
I went up for the unveiling of it. I had a private showing as his chief of staff.
And another question, you alluded to it earlier when you talked about a post-racial America. Do you think we will ever truly experience a post-racial America in the United States?
I'm hopeful that we will. In fact, that is a struggle that continues.
Are you more optimistic or less than optimistic about that?
I'm sort of optimistic.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Now, major question, and this divides the African American community. Do you think that President Obama is doing an effective job in fighting for social justice?
No. I think we need to take him to the woodshed.
Can you explain to us the areas where you think he's fallen short?
Well, he has not made any commitment to reparations, that's the first thing.
And second or third would be?
So education needs to be high on the agenda for minorities.
Are there any other things that you can think
The
of?
land grant colleges and the HUBCs.
Thank you. Now, along with keeping the faith, what do you feel like Americans, particularly Black Americans, can do at a time where unemployment numbers are at 16%?
Our economy needs to be turned around, and the Republicans are still the party of no. Obama has instituted several reforms that would help, but the Republicans block him everywhere he goes, every step he takes. They voted no.
Which leads then to an additional question, because obviously the civil rights movement ushered in a lot of policies, a Voting Rights Act, a Civil Rights Act. It did, for all practical purposes, really put a dent into de jure segregation. But despite the dent put into de jure segregation, we still have a lot of racial marginalization. How does the racism that you fought against in the civil rights movement differ from the kind of racial discrimination that we see today?
Well, we've got to stay at it and in order to stabilize the gains that we've made.
All right.
And we need to elect Obama to a second term.
How do you see, let me try to go at it another way. How do you see discrimination expressing itself differently today than it did in the past?
It's subtle. The Tea Party movement is a part of that. Racism, residual racism that exists.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are some who maintain that although the old-fashioned, visceral, Bull Connor type of racism, we don't see that. Nevertheless, a movement like the Tea Party, if you read its political language and code, while it doesn't express itself as viscerally, is, in terms of the interest of African Americans, very much anti-Black.
Absolutely. Anti-Black, anti-Catholic, and anti-labor.